Success isn't overnight. It's when every day you get a little better than the day before. It all adds up. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. My friends, that's what we do each and every day, striving to get better and better until you become a master of the charts. And when you do, you'll make up for all the time you ever spent. Do not be worried about how long it takes. Be consistent in your practice. We see everything up for the day, but again, at the end of the week, it doesn't change anything as far as the long-term trends. That is the weekly trend. That is what we trade off of. Let's look first at the S&P 500. We see where it rock bottomed on Monday the 5th. That is the most recent low. That's where we got this big down candle. Now, it's been pared back a little bit. You can see the wick on the bottom. That shows us where things have been pared back. And you can see where we had Tuesday in the afternoon, Wednesday morning, then dropped Wednesday afternoon, then Thursday and Friday moved up some. Not a lot on Friday, 0.44%. Look at all the volume. Look at the accelerating down candles. So we will continue to keep an eye on it, but we still have lots of downward pressure. Now, you know, we saw this move before this week. We saw it start all the way back on the 22nd of July. We saw it happen on the charts. We told you about it. We didn't opt for the S&P. We opted for the NASDAQ 100. And of course, none of this was a surprise when all the media heated up this week with the huge drop. Oh, we're going into a recession. Everything's bad, bad, bad. We saw it all happening. This is what happens when you read charts and you don't simply listen to the people on the news that are just keeping you tuned in for the commercials where they make their money. Again, where we make our money in our practice trades, we're not a stock calling service, we're an education firm, but where we make it is where we watch the charts and we follow on our biggest chart, which is the weekly chart, the weekly vertical crossovers. Now, we see that price is still well below the weekly trend line on the 2-day and the half-day. We do have a green candle forming. We'll see what happens on that 2-day chart. Now, again, still very red on the weekly. It'll be curious to see how this new week starts. And if indeed this is going to be a short-term down move, it's going to pop back up perhaps. I don't know. It could accelerate down again. But remember, we have all this downward pressure. We are in that weekly vertical crossover going down. How does the market go? It tends to move in the direction of the largest chart, which is the weekly chart. The trend is your friend until the end. So we watch each and every day to see what is going on. So not much on Friday, 0.44%. Let's look at the NASDAQ 100. This is the chart that we traded. This was the one that looked better. In fact, it was the great up move on this that we rode, and then we saw it come to an end, switch over, and we jumped in it and have been riding it. Now, I took my profits earlier and did quite well on it. And of course, you can play out the move as long as you want. I know that when things tend to move down, they will adjust. They'll catch back up and then plummet again if that move's going to continue. So we'll continue to watch it, monitor it, and see if it gives us an opportunity to get back into it, which invariably it will. We see that price is still decently below the weekly chart on the 2-day and on the half-day, and we'll be paying close attention this week. Look at all that volume as it has built. We will continue to watch and expect for things to roll back over at some point. Let's move on to 20-year U.S. government bonds. Now, they had been in a down move Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I said yesterday, remember, are we going to go below the weekly trend line or are we going to bounce off of it? Well, we bounced off of it, up 0.99%. We're moving up toward where we've seen a ceiling in the past. Is it going to bounce off this or penetrate it? Candle body has not, wick has. We saw that prior wick back on the week beginning the 29th of July, we saw it stop. This week, it did manage to move up through it. When did that happen? Happened, well, last Friday in the afternoon, continued on Monday, and then moved back through it, and now is bouncing off the weekly trend line. We'll pay close attention to see if indeed things continue to move up next week. So we are still green. We're still long on 20-year U.S. government bonds, and we'll be paying close attention as to where they go and what they do. Now, let's move on to gold. Gold is still in this crazy, look at it. It has been up to the prior ceiling that it's bounced off of several times before. We had a doji after the last bounce off of it. That was the week, the 15th of July, that it moved up, then bounced off on the 22nd, moved up again on the week beginning the 29th. And this week, we have just a doji just sitting right there below it. Now, if this ceiling holds, things will roll off and head down. Gold, again, just barely up for the day, 0.25%. We can see where the half day's moved up to it, as has the 2-day. One of two things is going to happen. Either it's going to push up and gain a lot of energy or roll back off and head down. This next week will tell us that. Now, seeing as how we had, with this last interim high and then the one from last week, the week beginning the 29th, so we're talking the 15th and the 29th, we've had higher than average volume, just barely on the week beginning the 29th of July, and now we've sort of moved below it. Where might that be going? Could mean the energy's down and things are going to roll over and head down. Don't be fooled by the red volume. It doesn't mean negative volume. It means, and it is important, it means that this week's candle, the week that's just ending, the week beginning the 5th of August, this week's candle opened lower than the prior week. That's all that red volume means, but we have our chart set up that way so we see it. And again, it tells us information that this week started off lower than the prior week. We'll see how the new week starts. That'll give us more information to help make a decision on whether or not we're going to short gold at some point. Okay, let's move lastly to HODL. Big down move this week, a huge hammer down. Now, we see for 2 days, Bitcoin has moved up. Today, it moved up 2.10%. Gives us a green candle forming for the first day of the latest 2-day candle. That is just 1 day of movement. You can see there's not a lot of volume there. You can see on the half-day chart that initial move on Thursday morning was strong, but after that, it weakened off. And I just want to, but you can see for the entire week, particularly with this down move, lots of volume and down energy. So that's what's still affecting Bitcoin. We are short on Bitcoin right now. Our chart tells us we've had a significant rollover and a lot of weakness in Bitcoin. We will continue to watch it over the course of this next week to see if it indeed reverts back over and starts heading down. We pay close attention to what? Number one is, of course, what's happening with price. Number two, and equally important, is what's happening with volume. If you've not taken our volume training, man, do you need that. So important. And then third, trend lines. Like I said earlier in the broadcast today, the trend is your friend until the end. And when it ends, it's important to know that, to note that, to see how strong the prior trend was and how significant the correction is. And in Bitcoin, it is a big one. For everybody who's subscribing at our website, and again, you just go there, put in your name, you get on our email address. That list is never spammed. It's never shared. We send you a total of 5 emails a week. That is the daily show that we put out each and every day. And of course, at the end of the week, the weekly review and forecast, which we call the weekly compass. And we also make sure to put in each day a special training. And that special training we put in today is on trend lines. It's a great trend line training that really will help you understand them, understand how to place them, how they're used, and how to think about them. That is where we are at the end of the week. Patreon members, thank you so much for your support. We sent you yesterday our weekly vertical crossovers, 20 of those. They were all going down for the week. And of course, you had early access, charting cryptos, commodities, and currencies, which I'll soon release to all the public. If you appreciate what we do here, become a Patreon sponsor. First thing you get, Options Made Simple, the Charting Wealth Way, our 3-part series. I think it's the best options training for you on the internet. It will get you started, give you the tools you need to understand options and to be able to start your practice trading. God bless, my friends. All the best from the whole team at Charting Wealth World Headquarters.